Hello everyone, and welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. If you're here for stories told with context rather than chaos, you're in the right place. Tonight's episode walks a fine line every responsible entertainment channel must learn to walk, the space between rumor and reality. The names at the center are three you know well, Ebru Şahin, Akın Akın, and Cedi Osman, and the headline being tossed around this week is a provocative one: Ebru's family wants a wedding with Akın. That sentence has traveled far, but distance is not proof. Our aim is to slow the scroll, lay out what's known, what's guessed, and why the most respectful response right now is patience. First, the ground truth. Ebru Şahin is not a tabloid character. She is a trained actor whose career runs on range, discipline, and a steady refusal to cheapen private life for engagement. Akın Akın is likewise a professional whose performances have carried across markets because he understands intensity without theatrics. And then there is Cedi Osman, national team basketball player, ambassador for the sport, and the man Ebru married. That marriage has been framed for the public with uncommon clarity, a handful of photos, fewer statements, consistent boundaries. It reads like two adults setting the terms of their visibility and keeping them. Against that reality, the rumor plays like a mid-season twist from a series hunting for ratings. Who said it? Where? Can the quote be traced to a name that can be held accountable if it proves false? Ask those questions and the story thins. The first posts came from aggregator accounts that splice fragments from everywhere and attach headlines in the conditional tense. The phrasing is revealing: allegedly, reportedly, sources say. Notice, too, what is missing. Audio, video, a statement on the record, or even a publication willing to bet its masthead on the claim. That absence doesn't automatically make the rumor untrue, but it does make it unverified. Responsible coverage stops there and examines why unverified things feel so convincing. Three explanations can account for how we got here. The most likely is the simplest: a passing comment from a distant relative, or a complete stranger, was misheard, mistranslated, and inflated by repetition. In a world where posts jump languages in seconds, nuance often dies in transit. A second possibility is strategic ambiguity: someone, somewhere, threw a spark to pull attention on a slow day. The third is that a kernel of ordinary family opinion has been dressed up as decree. Families have preferences, that is normal. Turning a preference into a public directive is not. Let's stack this rumor against what we know of the people involved. Ebru and Cedi have modeled steadiness, public when clarity helps, private when peace requires it. There is no pattern of theatrics here, no breadcrumbs meant to bait speculation. It would be out of character for anyone close to Ebru to shop a competing narrative through whisper networks. Akın, for his part, has kept a profile defined by work. Admiration between peers absolutely exists, it's the oxygen of a small industry, but admiration is not affidavit. Turning collegial respect into a marriage pitch says more about the market for gossip than it does about the people in the headline. How did the claim spread? Without evidence, via repetition. Caption-only cards appeared, then screenshots of those captions, then edits set to romantic score and stitched to soft focus interview clips. This is how fiction borrows the costume of fact. Every repost pushes the feeling that everyone knows a little further, even as the source grows more remote. Velocity without provenance is the signature of rumor. Does that mean families never weigh in? Of course not. Families are made of humans with memories, cultural frameworks, and ideas about harmony. Some elders prize shared background, others prize the character they see up close. The adult move, especially under a spotlight, is for relatives to keep their hopes private and their support public. If someone, somewhere in an extended circle did voice a wish, that is a household conversation, not a headline. The leap from "an aunt prefers" to "the family is pushing" is a leap over a canyon. It's also worth pausing on the cost of runaway speculation. The first people to feel the heat are rarely the names in bold, it's their parents, siblings, and friends suddenly asked to explain themselves at school gates and in DMs. Next come colleagues, directors, publicists, teammates. whose inboxes fill with requests for comment they cannot responsibly give. Then, inevitably, the rumor is folded into unrelated work, every scene partner becomes a suspect, every scheduled appearance becomes a sign. That noise extracts attacks from everyone's day while producing very little that is true. So what does the record actually suggest about character? That boundaries are being kept on purpose. Ebru and Cedi's public rhythm, speak sparingly, live steadily, looks less like secrecy and more like stewardship. Akin's cycle, work, vanish, return with the next role, reads the same way. These are adults organizing their lives so the work can stay good and the private can stay livable. A rumor that paints any of them as casual with vows or cavalier with friendship contradicts the long pattern of their choices. Why, then, does the headline grip so hard? Because it offers a shortcut, a way to make three complicated lives collide in a neat triangle that can be argued about for days. It satisfies a craving for the forbidden, the traditional, and the inevitable all at once. But real lives are not triangles, they are webs, schedules, contracts, families on both sides, obligations to causes, and the unglamorous work of rest. Reducing that web to a single whispered family wish doesn't just misinform, it shrinks people who have earned better. If you care about these artists and want to support them in a way that actually helps, 3 simple habits make a difference. 1. Interrogate the source. If no one with a byline stands behind a claim, treat it like weather, notice it, then check a forecast you trust. 2. Separate admiration from entitlement. You can love Ebru's performances, respect Akin's craft, and cheer Cedi's career without assuming access to their private conversations. 3. Let your support scale. If you must post, keep captions generous and grounded. If you don't know, say you don't know. Algorithms can be trained to reward care. There is also a constructive angle here, something bigger than a debunk. Stories like this invite us to consider how family hopes and individual agency negotiate under a spotlight. Most of us come from homes where elders hold strong ideas about what fits. Sometimes they are right in ways the young only discover later. Sometimes they are wrong, and only the 2 people inside the relationship can see why. The healthy pattern is conversation, not coercion, counsel offered, not imposed. Public lives make that harder, not easier. Which is why the rest of us should resist adding weight to a scale we don't have to lift. Before we close, let's remember why we know these names at all, because they welcomed us into stories that felt like home for an hour at a time. We argued about characters they played as if those characters were neighbors. We mapped our own hopes onto their arcs. That is a beautiful form of attention, but it has to be handled like good glassware, useful when cared for, dangerous when thrown. The best thing a community like ours can do is model the difference. Here is the clear summary you can carry out of this video without adding fuel to a fire that may not exist. A rumor claims Ebru Şahin's family is rooting for a match with Akın Akinozu despite her marriage to Cedi Osman. The claim lacks verifiable sourcing and travels mainly through captions and edits, not reporting. The people involved have a documented history of privacy and professionalism that argues against public meddling by anyone close to them. Until and unless Ebru, Cedi, or Akın choose to speak, the honorable stance is simple: wish them well, watch the work, and let a good life breathe. If this approach resonates with you, you are our kind of audience. Subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, turn on notifications, and consider joining as a member so we can keep investing in storytelling that takes time. In the comments, tell us how you navigate stories like this in your own life. Do you correct rumors when you hear them, or do you wait for people to speak for themselves? Your answers help set the tone here more than any algorithm. Thank you for watching, for reading closely, and for being the kind of community that keeps people human while the feed keeps spinning. We'll be here when there is real news, firm words, on the record, ready to celebrate or clarify with the same steadiness you've come to expect from this channel.